try to give you 3 different and yet entertaining opinions of what they think about films that one of the 3 have picked for the particular episode. I am today's host, Lance. These are my co-hosts / cohorts, / my A squared plus B squared equals me C squared. Cody, say hello.
Hello.
And Owen, say hello.
Hello.
We are algebra, boys. Cody's A squared, you're B squared, and I'm obviously C squared.
We're honors algebra up in this bitch.
No, not honors. I wouldn't go honors that far. I would say, we're acing the dumb algebra. They put you in the class with the dumb people.
Yeah.
And you're like, boy, I got 97. I'm fucking speeding through like I was. I used to do that with my English class. Yeah. And then my mom realized there was advanced English. And then she's like, oh, you need to take that. I'm like, no. But I lost that battle because I was only 14. And then, I still made A's, but it was 95s. It wasn't like 99s across the board anymore. Damn. But anyway.
I would hope that you were 14 at the time and not like 22 still in high school.
I was like, well, damn, Mom. I am a legal adult. It's been a while. I have taken this course like 8 times. I've got this now, Mom. I'm not making it harder.
I'm just worrying about graduating now, Mom. Damn.
It's like, damn, no child left behind, but I'm an adult now. All right, well, today's episode is a phenomenal movie, The Wrestler, released on December 17th, 2008 in a limited capacity, and I'll tell you how limited in a fucking minute. And it was released nationwide January 23rd, 2009, a little over a month later on DVD. Oh, wait, never mind. Yeah, I was reading something else. But it was released April 21st on DVD and Blu-ray. So it didn't have a long theater run because at the time, my significant other was a manager at the movie theater in my hometown, and they didn't get it. That's really irritating because I remember reading the hype about this movie, and it was at these little film festivals. I mean, it's a movie about pro wrestling, and it's getting all these great reviews, and I wasn't getting it in my hometown of Clarksville, Tennessee. At the time, I think it had like a limited, maybe month run at IMAX in Nashville. If anybody's listening to this, they know where Nashville is. But I didn't have a vehicle that was dependable enough to get to Nashville at the time, so I was kind of screwed. But I remember waiting for it to be released on DVD and going to Walmart early that morning, the day of release, and getting the DVD of it, and then going home and watching it like twice because I loved it. But I'm going to turn this over to Cody. The one question I really have before we jump into the movie is, Cody, what is your experiences and favorite memories of professional wrestling? Because we have kind of a shared history with that.
Yeah, so I remember watching wrestling when I was really, really young. I think some of the earliest memories that kind of stick with me is during like the Monday Night Wars. So I was probably, 4 or 5 years old at the time. Yeah, I remember watching like
I was 10.
Monday. I remember watching like Monday Nitro. So I was like more of a WCW kid, really, because that was the one I always got to watch, and then sometimes I'd get to watch Raw afterward. And my favorite wrestlers at the time, I liked Stone Cold and The Undertaker. So The Undertaker's always been my favorite wrestler. Mm-hmm. But, it was more about like Sting, and like it's Crow Sting, not Surfer Sting, and Goldberg. As far as favorite memories of wrestling go, it's really hard to choose. A couple of them that really stick out to me are the Undertaker Jeff Hardy match in 2000.
Oh, God, yes, 2002.
2002, yeah.
That was on my birthday in 2002.
I remember we were on a family trip to Kansas, and we were staying in a motel, and I remember, my siblings and stuff were going out to swim in the pool and stuff, and I was sitting there on the bed just watching that match, and the iconic moment where Undertaker raises Jeff's arm, and as a kid I was conflicted because I wanted Undertaker. It was for the title belt,
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted Undertaker to keep the title, but also wanted Jeff Hardy to win because he had never had a world championship at the time. You know, a singles title.
Yes.
And other than that, the one memory that really sticks out to me that is one of my favorites is when Undertaker came back as the dead man. And, yeah, after he got rid of the biker persona, because for me personally, I wasn't a huge fan of the biker persona. I mean, I still liked the Undertaker, but I'd always liked the dead man more.
Gotcha. I remember that match very much. Before I get into my stuff, I just remember it was a ladder match for the at the then called Undisputed WWE Championship. And Jim Ross's commentary was absolutely phenomenal. It was on my birthday. I remember, I think Cody played this game too, WWE SmackDown Shut Your Mouth.
Yes.
I set up I did 3 matches, best out of 2. I did computer versus computer to try to predict this match because I don't know why. I mean, I was 14. I knew wrestling was predetermined at this point, but I still was like, maybe Jeff's going to win. Let me see. And I did an Undertaker versus Jeff ladder match, and Jeff won the first 2. I'm like, he's going to win tonight.
the accurate simulation of what system was this on?
PlayStation 2, baby. That was an incredible game, though. Cody can attest to it. It got better with Here Comes the Pain, but Shut Your Mouth was really good.
Yeah, Shut Your Mouth was such an accurate, wrestling sim that you could climb up on the fist and just like murder people by throwing them off.
If you didn't hit them though, you would hit your head and then like bounce up 10 feet and spin around.
Yeah,
it was incredible, man. But yeah, I remember that match like it was my birthday. I'm like, damn it, Jeff! I thought he was gonna get it, and then the whole like Undertaker raising his hand. I'm like, okay, I can like Undertaker now. All right, we'll turn this over to Mr. Owen. Owen, you are a lot younger than me, and we've had a few discussions about professional wrestling. But what are your experiences and or memories that you would like to share?
I don't have as much of like an experience really growing up with it like you guys did. I grew up like post the Golden Age, post the Attitude Era, and all that stuff. So by the time I was aware of it and like could comprehend it. It was already kind of bad, I guess.
It was the beginning of the John Cena reign.
No, John Cena, by the time I like had started getting kind of into wrestling, like John Cena already was like a pretty damn big name.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Yeah.
So he was already like winning all the time.
Yeah, he already was like kind of the golden boy, like face of the entire thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, my best memories probably of it was as a kid I'd played a lot of PlayStation 2.
Yeah, baby.
And we had SmackDown vs. Raw 2007, and me and my brother and my cousin being like way bigger wrestling fans than me.
Hey, do your impersonation of your cousin that's a fan?
Hey, y'all wanna go wrestle? Y'all like Godsmack?
Oh my god!
So
yeah, he's really East. Is it East Tennessee-ish?
No, they're all from like rural Indiana.
Oh, Indiana.
So yeah, I don't really. They're like trailer park people.
There's nothing wrong with that. We're not going. This episode.
This is a judge-free episode.
This is a judge-free episode because I'm gonna get into my experiences. Is there anything else you want to share though? Like anything that stuck out your head?
I was a big Rey Mysterio fan. I really
Booyaka?
Yeah, 69, dude.
Oh my god.
Let's change it up a bit.
You're missing a number there, man.
Nah.
I think it's 615, to be honest with you. That's Nashville.
No, I think it's 620.
You gotta round it up to the next whole number, 620. Yeah. Booyaka. That's all right. All right, well, I'll go ahead and share my experiences, and I've talked on and off with quite a few of my friends about pro wrestling, especially Owen and Cody, obviously on this podcast. But my first linear memory of wrestling, like growing up, it happened in April 91. I wasn't even 3 yet, and I remember this to this day. It was a segment called The Funeral Parlor that was hosted by The Undertaker's manager, Mr. Paul Bearer. Oh, yes! And it was a talk show where they would bring on the baby faces at the time, which means good guys in wrestling. They would do something, and he would threaten them, saying the Undertaker was going to come get them, yada, yada, yada. Well, this episode had the Ultimate Warrior, who instantly became my guy with his appearance, the way he looked, just looked incredible, like, you know, an action figure come to life. And I remember the Undertaker jumping him from behind and locking him in a casket. And for like the next 8 minutes on television, they were trying to get the casket open. They were using power tools and all this other shit. They got it open, and Warrior had torn all the insides of the casket up trying to get out, like he was fighting to survive, and he was passed out. Like, that's my first like linear memory, and like I said, that was April 91. And this wasn't a time when they gave you a shit ton of replays or monthly recaps. So I know I wasn't even 3 yet when I watched this. And then, you know, later on, like the next month, they locked the Warrior in a room, and Jake Roberts had all these snakes in there. Jake the Snake Roberts, and this cobra supposedly bit Warrior. If you watched it, it's really fucking hokey now. But the thing that really burns in my brain after all that happened about October of the year. And Jake Roberts had tied the Macho Man Randy Savage up into the bottom ropes. And Jake's snake that he took to the ring at this time was a king cobra. It was a devenomized king cobra, but this damn thing was like at least 8 feet long. It was fucking just terrifying looking. And Jake grabbed the snake, pulled it over there, and it chomped on Randy's arm for a good bit. I remember watching that, and I've seen the unedited clips since childhood, and you see the blood pouring off Randy's arm, and it's like, oh my God, and you see kids crying. But yeah, it's, when I talk to people about wrestling, once we get over the little funny, like, oh yeah, that stuff's fake, from them, not from me, I don't call it fake, but when I get past all that, you know, I have bonded with quite a few people over, like, you know, past wrestling, from what they've watched compared to what I've watched. Because, you know, like I said, you know, I was 3 when that happened. I didn't get really into be able to, like, really watch what I wanted to watch till I was about probably 5 or 6. That's when I started remembering, like, watching Power Rangers. My first NFL game I remember watching, I was 6 years old. I ended up discovering my dad's recorded tapes. He had a few wrestling tapes, some WrestleManias he had bought that he recorded on VHS. If you don't know what a VHS is, you're not listening to this podcast. Yeah. I'm not even going to explain.
Get the fuck out of here.
Get the fuck off my podcast. We're not even going to discuss this. I still have multiple VHS tapes.
If you don't know what a fucking laser disc is, get the fuck out of here.
Hey, I've only watched one laser disc, and that was in my middle school gymnasium class. They were doing some health video.
I've never watched a laser disc.
It was crazy.
Were you like, whoa?
This thing was huge, man. I'm like, man, that looks like a fucking Frisbee.
Yeah, they're like as big as records or some shit.
Are you over there, Cody?
It sounded like he farted.
It sounded like he farted, or he had a spit take, like, like, okay, yeah, he's like the great mood over here.
I sneezed so hard it hurt my neck.
Oh, God. Well, before we get any emails, Cody, have you ever had any experiences with Laserdisc?
No, but I was going to say, if you don't own at least 15 Betamax tapes,
oh my God,
get out of here.
God damn.
All right, look, we'll go ahead and make fun of my age, but VHSs that's where it was at the time. But like I said, I discovered a few of these tapes my dad said he had, and I'd end up watching them over and over again. And digging through his old tapes, I ended up finding like old football games. So I guess I was, because my dad would work night shifts. On Fridays, I didn't have school on Saturday. I would stay up and wait for him to get home so we could hang out. And during that time waiting for him, I would end up watching some of these old football games. And that translated into me watching older movies and appreciating them more. And through me watching these old wrestling tapes all the way into watching these old movies, I was able to really kind of connect with my dad. Like, I would ask him questions like, hey, okay, when's the first time you watched this? Like, who were you watching it with? Were you watching it with my mom? Were you young enough to watch it with your dad? All these things. So I was able to really connect with my dad, I feel like, on an emotional level. And to me, I'm thankful it's all because of wrestling. You know, I was able to have, my great-grandmother passed away when I was 16, and her and my grandmother would babysit me from, like, when I was a baby. My parents both had day jobs. So they babysitted me from when I was a baby till I was at least, golly, man, until until I didn't have to until I was in high school, pretty much. Like I was still going over there up until middle school and stuff like that. But when I was a young kid, I was able to talk to my great grandmother about wrestling. She had seen all the stuff, and she knew it was, predetermined. But she didn't ruin it for me as a kid. She knew I loved it so much. So, I have a lot of great memories with wrestling, and it's like all these things are time-stamped. Like, I'll remember something happened in wrestling, and I'll remember what it was happening in my life at the time. So, for me, wrestling goes just a little bit deeper than just like a normal fandom. It helps me remember things that I obviously wouldn't remember otherwise. A lot of people have like, oh, this is my favorite coffee cup my dad gave me, and they remember things about their dad. Well, me, hey, I remember watching The Ultimate Warrior or Hulk Hogan do this on television, and I remember this when I was 4 years old. And that's kind of how it is for me. And then when I got older, I was obviously watching the stuff that Cody was talking about, and obviously I still was watching the stuff that Owen was watching. So I guess I'm like the grandfather of media here when it comes to this wrestling. Because I went through like both your generations of wrestling. I feel so old right now. But yeah, like I said, Jeff Hardy was my guy, and it's usually the guys that was wearing the face paint or the masks that I was really drawn to. Just, it's kind of like, able to hide yourself from the world or hide your real identity and, have some form of protection. I always like, my sunglasses I buy to this day, I'm always like, yeah, those look like Bret Hart sunglasses or Randy Savage sunglasses, the shape of them. And it's usually what I go for. So
you should get like a Randy Savage hat. I
should. Well, if my hair starts thinning that bad, I think I will.
I'll support you fully.
Hey, yeah.
If you go out in full Macho Man attire,
I should. I come to work. Oh yeah, Macho Man Randy Savage,
cream of the crop.
All right.
You just gotta walk around with your hand on your belt and your other hand up in the air. Walking in slow circles all the time.
I'm pointing at my boss all the time, like you. Hey, real quick side story. Going back to what I was talking about, the Jake Roberts and Randy Savage, the Cobra. I showed Owen that. I showed you that too, right, Cody?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the story is Randy was really paranoid that the snake still had venom in it, and cobras, from what I understand, they have venom sacs and they spit venom out. Well, this cobra had the sacs cut out and silicone was filled in so they couldn't grow back. So the snake just had its teeth, and cobras don't have fangs, they just have like teeth like catfish. So Randy goes, you know something? I think you should let the snake bite you, and then we'll go out there and let it bite the Macho Man. What do you think about that? And Jake's like, are you fucking kidding me? And he's like, no, brother, and if you don't do that, we're going to have a problem right now. So Jake had to stick his hand in the bag. This is according to Jake Roberts. It may not be completely true. He had to stick his hand in the bag, let the snake bite him. Well, by the time they go out to the ring to do the segment, Jake's already pissed off. And this cobra responds to being kind of tapped hard or even, like smacked. That's how the cobra responds to biting or whatever. So Jake says he gets Randy down, tied in the ropes, and he grabs the snake. He says he turns his back to Randy, and he fucking paintbrushes the shit out of the snake. So the snake is pissed. And then he turns around, and you see the snake is almost trying to bite Jake first. Then it tries to bite Randy's face, and Jake guides him to bite his arm. He latches on the arm, but he won't let go. Randy's like, get the snake fucking off of me, man! And Jake's like, I'm trying, kid. You're doing a good job, though. He's like, fuck you. And they send Miss Elizabeth and Roddy Piper down there. They're like, get the snake off of him. He goes, I'm trying. And the snake finally lets go. But that's just a funny little thing here in backstage. And that snake ended up dying 2 days later. So
Macho Man was too much for it.
But yeah, Macho Man said in interviews that his venom killed the snake. So let me get a few more facts real quick about the wrestler. I got off that little side tangent. But, so the wrestler, directed by, I'm going to butcher this last name, Darren Orlovsky.
Sure, let's just go with that.
Okay. He's done a lot of movies that people will recognize from, Requiem of a Dream, Black Swan. He did the Noah movie. He did Mother with an exclamation mark. Yeah.
Oh,
Mother.
Gosh.
Yeah. But,
I only know Black Swan. That's the only one I know.
Well, that's kind of racist, sir.
Okay.
And it stars Mr. Mickey Rourke and Marissa Tomei are the two main stars for me. I had seen Marissa Tomei in, I believe, an Adam Sandler movie, and also she was in My Cousin Vinny. Everybody remembers from her. Oh, if you're old enough to watch that fucking movie, excuse me, I shouldn't assume that with these two. Cody, have you ever seen My Cousin Vinny?
No, but she's also Aunt May in the MCU.
So we don't acknowledge those movies.
And the new one?
Yeah.
She's the one that everyone's like, whoa, his aunt's so hot now.
Yeah, it's like, oh my
Do you
God.
see her boobs and her butt in this movie, dude? Just watch this one.
Yeah, we should, to be honest, what we should do with our podcast Twitter account, because I'm not getting thrown off Twitter. I've got 100 followers. What we should clip her dancing with her titties out, and then tag every MCU fan site and every hashtag in the MCU. It's like, what do you think about your Aunt May now?
Whoa, Aunt May naked? Boy, yoing, yoing, yoing.
Going to Mickey Rourke, his movies that he's done. He was a bigger star in the 80s. He never got to the level a lot of people thought he would get. But I know him from, he's in the first Expendables movie, which is all the action stars put into one movie. And he's the villain in Iron Man 2, the Russian.
Yeah, I want my bird.
Yeah, it's like, what's my bird? He goes, okay, so this is not my bird. And this movie was put out by Fox Searchlight Pictures. And only had a $6 million budget.
Yeah, that's a really small, piddly budget for a movie.
Yeah, it's crazy sitting here thinking what they not got away with, but what they were able to do. I'll go into some of the things they were improving. Like the grocery store scenes, a lot of that was improv. He was actually serving customers, and that's what the director was filming.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Then I was like, oh man, because a lot of the customers really pulled off just being confused and feeling awkward. The one guy that he's like, go on, and he throws it to him.
That was so
The
fucking
guy just,
embarrassing.
so confused.
He's like, God damn, how about them Cowboys? I was dying in that part right there, man. Nicolas Cage was in the running to do this movie as well. And I find it funny, because I've read this on the Wikipedia page, and I've read it elsewhere, that Nicolas Cage had entered in the negotiations, and I remember reading at the time on the wrestling websites, he entered in October 2007 to play as the wrestler, but a lot of people say he dropped out because of the Chris Benoit controversy, which anybody listening to this, they don't know about it. Chris Benoit, world famous wrestler, former world champion for the World Wrestling Entertainment, went ballistic, ended up killing his wife and his son, and then killing himself over the course of 2.5 days. And that put a lot of bad press on WWE. They needed to test. A lot of people associated it with roid rage, because Chris was doing steroids. And at the time, a lot of people called their, what do you call that? Their drug testing. It was called a more professional term I was trying to come up with. But the drug testing was more of a joke. You can get by it. But that's why they said Nicolas Cage dropped out. Orlowski, I'll just call him Darren. Darren stated that Cage was a complete gentleman, quote unquote, complete gentleman, and he understood that my heart was with Mickey. He stepped aside. I have so much respect for Nick Cage as an actor, and I think it really could have worked with Nick, but Nick was incredibly supportive of Mickey, and he's old friends with Mickey and really wanted to help with this opportunity, so he pulled himself out of the race. Well, in 2009, Nicolas Cage denied this, and he said, I wasn't dropped from the movie. I resigned from the movie because I didn't think I had enough time to achieve the look of the wrestler who was on steroids, which I would never do. Bullshit. It's Hollywood. And also Hulk Hogan fucking said on Howard Stern in 2012, yeah, I was offered the role of Randy the Ram. I'm like, Hulk, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, brother.
Hulk, if you let him tell the story, he'd sit there and tell you he was with Noah building the ark. That's what Hogan does, man. He'll sit there and be like, well, brother, I'll give just a quick little side note. When the Ultimate Warrior and him had their WrestleMania match for the world title. They won. Oh, Warrior won. They can't both win. And then Hogan grabbed the belt and gave Warrior the belt, and they hugged in the ring. Hogan said that was completely on him and it was improv. He wanted everybody to be paying attention to him. Listening to multiple podcasts since then, everybody said that was a completely planned moment. That's the way it was supposed to be. That's Hogan celebrating with the new champion. But Hogan will sit there and tell you, this is something for Cody's boy, The Undertaker. Their first match was for the world title. And Hogan kept saying, brother, I got a bad neck, so watch out with that little pile driver you do. And Taker was like, don't worry, Hulk, I'll take care of you. He had him wrapped up. He had him wrapped up so damn tight for that tombstone. Hogan's head never hit the mat. It was embarrassingly bad. When he hit that, like Hogan's head was like 6 inches from where you're supposed to act like you're hitting somebody's head on the mat. And then Hogan was in the back telling Vince to call his kids. He doesn't think he's going to make it through the night. So please, any claims from Hulk Hogan need to be taken with a grain of salt. He is always in character. Hulk Hogan now exists. Terry Bollea does not. That's Hulk Hogan's real name. Anyway, Cody, do you have any response to Hulk Hogan thinking he had the role of Randy the Ram?
Yeah, I think that's probably a crock.
Could you imagine Hulk Hogan doing this movie?
No, because
it'd be like Mr. Nanny all over again.
Well, it's not even that sort of thing, but this movie is really like a commentary on people like Hulk Hogan. So why would he ever do this movie? And it's all about like how wrestlers, a lot of times they go past their prime. They end up getting, they're out of the mainstream. They end up running the independent circuit for so long, and their bodies break down, and a lot of them become addicts and all this other stuff. Now, Hogan, not necessarily an addict or anything, but he wrestled way past his prime. I mean, I think about that Ric Flair Hogan match in TNA. That was just a disaster.
And for anybody that doesn't know what TNA is a wrestling organization standing for Total Nonstop Action. And yes, they got it from Tits and Ass, which was going on in the 2000s. Owen won't let me forget it. He was like, Tits and Ass Wrestling, yeah.
I remember when I first saw TNA Wrestling, I was like, dude, Tits and Ass? Yes!
The fact that Hogan even said that he had I've been offered the role was just like a joke. I'm like, look, dude, if we wanted to see you in a wrestling movie, we'd rewatch No Holds Barred. Now, I will say I like No Holds Barred, and I am a fan of Hulk Hogan's character. I know he's made some terrible personal decisions and been caught being recorded doing these personal decisions. But Hulk Hogan, no matter what happens, he's always going to be like the first face of modern day WWE. That's what everybody remembers. He got the ball rolling. Stone Cold Steve Austin took it to new levels, and then John Cena kept it at the level it could. So there's your Mount Rushmore. And you had The Rock in there as well, but The Rock wasn't in there long enough. He was only in there for 4 years and got out and did Hollywood shit. But anyway, yeah, I just found it funny that Hogan said that. I'm like, oh, good Lord, Hulk, just stop talking, man. Not everything's about oh, brother, let me tell you something. I helped build the Ark.
Is Hulk Hogan even a good actor?
He's like him in wrestling. It's really bad. It's not like The Rock. The Rock's an incredible actor.
Yeah. Could you imagine those emotional scenes with Hulkster in them?
I'm picturing Hulk Hogan in the Ten Commandments helping Moses carry down the commandments from the mountain.
Yeah, he did that.
Well, Charlton Heston, I can see Hulk Hogan like, "Come on, brother, we got this."
And then he saw them when they got down and they saw the golden idol. Hulk Hogan gave everyone.
Let me tell you something, brothers.
That was all improv, brother. Brother, that was all improv. That was all me, brother. I was God's prophet, brother.
Oh my God!
I split the Red Sea, brother.
Let me tell you something. This is where the strength lies, brother. Yes, wrestling impersonations are just the greatest thing in the world. I don't think anybody's never done a brother from Hulk Hogan or Randy Savage. Ooh,
they usually get the two mixed up. Usually they'll do the brother for Randy Savage.
Oh, he also said
brother. I know he also does it.
Let me tell you something, brother. But it's usually backstage.
Yeah, he doesn't do it as much as Hulk Hogan. They just conflate the two for some reason.
Okay, before I jump into the plot of this movie, I would like to go ahead and suggest a few podcasts for anybody that is a wrestling fan listening to this. Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard. 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff. And there's a slew of others that are fan-driven. There's one I listen to, the OVP podcast, Our Vantage Point. They're fans. They do a great job reviewing and having fun with wrestling in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. Nothing's off limits for them. But, you know, I listen to a lot of these podcasts. That's where I get a lot of these stories and a lot of these, like, hindsights. Just so, because to me, wrestling, I don't know, everybody listening that thinks it's fake because they don't watch it, you can't explain it to them. Wrestling in the ring is predetermined. It's, you know, the outcome. And it's a stage play.
It's a very physical stage play. That's what it is.
But everything outside of the ring, the backstage politicking, the getting your body ready, the being on the road. Right now they're not on the road with the pandemic, but being on the road. All these things that you have to do to be in shape, to constantly be on the road doing tours. I'm listening to an audiobook from Justin Roberts, who was the announcer for WWE from 2007 to 2014. He had 2 off days, and he was a fucking ring announcer. And, you know, they always sit there and talk about the travel being a lot easier these days than it was back in the 80s. And the 80s was fucking terrible compared to these guys. These guys, I mean, you're doing a show in Orlando, then you're flying up to Michigan, then you're probably flying back down to Mississippi, then you're flying to LA, wherever the fuck it is for Vince. And, you know, it's just all this stuff going into it. Like, it's everything else about wrestling that's not fake, that you're putting all this damage on your body, as you see with Randy the Ram. And, you know, that's the thing that people just don't look past. You just sit there and watch television and be like, oh, well, he'll be here next week. Well, he's got 5 more shows to do this week. He's got a lot of traveling. He's going to drive like 1,500 miles this week and all this other shit. So, you know, and that's when, like Cody talked about earlier, getting dependent on drugs. And there's a lot of awesome documentaries about wrestling. Most of them are on the WWE networks. It's a little biased towards WWE, but they're awesome. They're great. On Hulu, I know a lot of people have Hulu. There's a documentary called Dark Side of the Ring. They've had 2 seasons. They're 45-minute episodes. And absolutely every single one has been incredible. Because they're not biased towards WWE. They're talking to the families of the wrestlers who are no longer with us in those episodes and seeing the effects of not having them home while being on the road. Their effects that, you know, maybe if they had drug issues, like, you know, you're listening to someone whose husband's no longer there, or somebody whose dad's no longer there in these episodes, and the story's being told over 45 minutes, and it's an incredible series. So I suggest anybody check this out. And there's so much more to professional wrestling than what you see on television. And in my older age, that's what's become more interesting to me, because these are real people. They have real stories. It's not so much, you know, what you see on television anymore. I watch that for entertainment. I like hearing about what everybody else's life is like, you know, because it makes it more real. It's not like I'm watching a football game, and for 3 hours I'm pissed off at the other team, but, you know, the rest of the time, I know they're just players trying to make a paycheck. So I'm not mad at them like that. I can sit there and hate this character on professional wrestling, and I don't actually hate the person. That's the beautiful thing about professional wrestling. Only 38 minutes into this podcast. Woohoo.
We finally got to it.
We finally got to the movie. The movie's not that long. The opening theme music, Metal Health by Quiet Riot, could not be a more perfect choice for this movie, because I absolutely love that song. And it was also a theme song of a pro wrestling game, Showdown Legends of Wrestling from PlayStation 2. Shout out to the PlayStation 2. On sale now at your local flea market. It's so sad. I'm advertising the PS2 and they literally just revealed the PS5. I'm like, fucking hell, man. You know, things are so complicated. But anyway, you had I love the little montage at the beginning where they show all those Photoshop pictures of Randy, the Ram, in the wrestling magazines, and it's like kind of chronicling his career over what we don't see of his career, and it's playing the song. You know, it's a lot off those like pro wrestling magazines that are not WWE magazines that you used to see at Walmart. And you have these ringside photography, and I thought that was like really cool how they actually went back and did all that. Any thoughts on that, Cody?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Like, and it gave you some backstory to Randy the Ram's career, without really, explicitly telling you everything.
Yeah,
And
it's very loose.
I think the last shot of all that stuff that you see is from '89, and it's like the big event, the Ram versus the Ayatollah, and
A rock and roll. I'm just kidding.
yeah, and then like the newspaper from the day after or whatever showing that the Ram won, and then then you get that hard cut, 20 years later or whatever.
Yeah. Owen, you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't even. What was the song? How did the?
It's dun 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 dun. He's like, "Metal Health Drive you mad."
Yeah, I think the only thing I really remember is just the straight cut to him like knocking on the trailer door. And being like, I thought it looked like Trailer Park Boys.
Oh my god,
that's what it reminded me of.
But you kind of missing a little bit in the middle of that, but we'll get you filled in. Just stick with me, kid. Okay.
Okay.
But yeah, the funny thing is about the Randy the Ram Ayatollah is like, it's like Hulk Hogan versus the Iron Sheik in '84 at the Madison Square Garden, and that's when Hogan wins the world title, and that's before the first WrestleMania. That was like, I don't know, like 6 months or probably a year before WrestleMania happened, and that's like a different era of wrestling because we just we didn't watch it obviously then. I wasn't even fucking alive, but it was like the big thing. You'd have Madison Square Garden Network on local stations up there, and then Vince had the USA Network, and he would play his shows over, which is funny because he's still on USA Network after all these years with WWE Raw. But they would just play these matches, and then this Hogan match is what started Hulkamania, like on a national scale. I mean, that's what it's kind of mimicking there at the beginning, but it cuts to Randy coughing in a locker room by himself, looking like, I don't know, some church basement almost. Like the walls look like some kind of like just random wood panel, and you got like tile floors and all that. And then the the promoter comes up. He goes, "Great job, Ram. Here's he hands him the money, and Randy grabs the money, counts, and the promoter doesn't leave because he's gonna have to explain himself. And Randy, holds out the money. Goes, "I'm sorry, Ram. I thought we'd have a better house, but don't forget." 2 months from now, Legend signing, Raw way. Be there, man. I need you. And he walks off. And then Randy is going through the exit of the building. You have 2 fans that come up. He's like, "Hey, can we get your signature?" And you're like, "Oh, man, you were so great." He signs the thing. They don't even grab their marker back from him. They just forget about it. So it's like they get what they want, and they instantly forget about Randy at that point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that scene where he just gives them a handful of money, which is not much, because he can't even get into his trailer when they cut to it, because his trailer's been locked down because he hasn't been paying his rent. But you're at the mercy of the promoter. The promoter is not going to be losing money. The boys are going to be losing money. And that's the fucked up thing about wrestling. People see you on television, they think you're a big fucking movie star because you're on wrestling, you're making all this money, and that ain't the case in a lot of places.
But at this point in the Rams' career, he's not even on TV anymore. He's just in like the independent circuit.
Yeah, no, I was using this example though for like your pay scale, and you think it's only even smaller. You're wrestling in front of 50 people in the independents.
No,
so
yeah.
your pay scale is like that.
Probably only making a couple $100 for that match.
I don't even think he made $100 for that match because he was like, Of course, when he gets the scene goes to he's driving. Again, some stereotypical 80s rock music. He gets to his trailer park, which is just sad in itself because it's a beat-up trailer park. It's not even a nice one. There's some nice ones. I'm like, damn, that actually looks pretty nice to live in.
The high-class trailer park.
Yeah, the double wides.
Hell yeah.
This was a single wide trailer he was in. I'm like, damn, dude. But he had been way past his due. Couldn't get, into the trailer. He was banging on the door trying to get the landlord. Landlord wasn't even fucking there, which was kind of fucked up, too. I felt bad. But, he does the whole old person thing where they'll crack a beer open, take the medication or whatever he's taking to take away the pain, just drinking beer and kind of reminiscing on old days. That's what he does a lot. He's staring a lot in this movie, kind of like Martin Sheen in Apocalypse Now, but he's reminiscing where Martin Sheen just looks like an underage boy who's high. Any thoughts on that, Owen?
Yeah.
That's Owen's movie, people. Go back and listen to Apocalypse Now. Marlon Brando makes an impersonation appearance. No one's impersonating me, goddammit. And it's a beautiful episode.
Yeah, we actually had Marlon Brando on the pod.
We fucking reanimated him.
Yeah.
And Cody said nothing because he couldn't hear us. All right, let's see if I got any notes up in this point that was just weird. Yeah, locked out of the trailer. Yeah, it's the old timer way where, like I said, you just crack a beer open, you take your medicine. Hell, my dad still will drink beer and he'll take ibuprofen with him.
So that's only an old person thing.
Well, I mean,
I
a lot of kids OD on stupid shit because they're mixing stuff.
so we're not supposed to be doing that?
Or not, but you can drink coffee with your toes. That's fine.
All right.
You can keep doing that. That's not a bad thing.
Okay.
All right, Cody. I see you're drinking. You're not drinking anything. I'm just fucking around with the people listening. But yeah, and then the scene. The next scene that happens, he's sleeping. All the kids are banging on this. It's like, Ram, wake up, Ram, and all this shit, which would really piss me off if kids were like banging on my window, waking me up.
Fucking kids.
And to clarify, he was sleeping in his car.
Yes, back of his van.
Yeah.
And down by the river.
I didn't know where it took place, but like I know now New Jersey, but I know like I was just thinking in my head like, damn, if you did that down here, like your ass would have a heat stroke in your fucking car if you slept in it.
That was so. Yeah, this is kind of like wintertime. This movie, yeah, that would suck. So you got that scene, and then the landlord, and he goes, I can't remember his landlord's name. He's like, come on, man, I threw my back out, which I thought was funny. He said he threw his back out. I'm like, damn, dude, I threw my back out. I couldn't move that fucking fast. He said, just let me get my ice packs, which made me think he was just trying to get, like, I just need more of my pain medication, which is all it is.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was just trying to find a way back into his trailer, period. Which, the landlord, obviously, he isn't budging. He said, because the Ram says, I'm good for it. He's like, oh, yeah, you're always good for it whenever I have to lock you out or whatever he says.
Oh, yeah, that shit sucks, man. If I was like a supervisor of like a trailer park or someone who did that, I'd probably have to just give in. I'd feel bad. So I just couldn't be that person that says no. I know I couldn't do that.
After about 10 times, I probably could be like, no, you're not getting back in.
No, my girlfriend keeps telling me yes after 10 times. So.
Oh, okay.
Hi-yo.
Hey-yo.
I'm just kidding. Which is funny. Quick wrestling term, kayfabe, is when you're trying to make the people believe and you stay in character. I am completely in kayfabe with my girlfriend. She doesn't know my real name, and she doesn't even know where I fucking live. I break into Cody's house when his wife and him aren't there, and we go in and she thinks I'm fucking rich and live in Springfield. So thanks, Cody. No, I'm just kidding. But no, we are like, there's only a few people that know who her name is and know who she is, and it's pretty much kind of kayfabe from everybody else. I told her, like, look, we're like pro wrestlers. She goes, okay, rolls her eyes. So, thank you, baby. I love you. Owen knows who she is. He's one of 2 people that are not my family. Cody doesn't know who she is. Go ahead and verify that, Cody.
That is correct.
Okay.
Cody knows.
Cody knows. He doesn't want to tell me. But, I was thinking, it's like, at least the kids, like, kind of give them a little bit, like, Ram. They seem like they really like him being in their little trailer park. These guys are like, oh, this guy's really cool. Like, hearing stories from him is what I was kind of thinking of. And, like, they wanted to hang out with him. He's like, all right, guys, I'll see you in a minute. The grocery store manager.
Wait. He leaves his fucking back of his van open. I remember that.
Yeah, but he goes back because he's going to work, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he does that. He jumps in, he's like, I'll leave you see your animals a little bit. He ain't got fucking anything back there. The kids are going to be like, oh,
the kids are going to take his fucking beer and his pan pills and shit. His little fucking action figure that's on his dashboard.
Oh my god. That little action figure was actually kind of cool.
It really looked like an old 80s like a wrestling action figure, the way it was sculpted.
There's there's an account on Twitter, and they make like not personalized, but they'll make customized like little action figures like that. It's pretty fucking dope.
Sweet.
Yeah, have you got any thoughts so far, Cody, on like what you've seen from Randy the Ram's life at this point? Before he got to the grocery store and says, I can't do anything on weekends.
Well, the fact that he couldn't pay rent for his trailer is, already telling you that he's down in the dumps. Yeah, he seems like at this point he just seems like he's still wrestling because that's all he really knows how to do. That is until the next scene where you see that he works in a grocery store, and it's like, oh well, he's got to do this on top of wrestling still.
Yeah, real quick, because all three of us, two of us still work in a grocery store. The third one is kind of successful, and that's not Owen. Owen's still a kid going to school. I'm just messing with him. But Cody worked at Kroger's as a member of the meat department. So I feel like he could relate a lot to Randy the Ram at that point.
Yeah. Well, in the beginning, he's not working in the meat department. He's like he like unloads trucks and stuff.
Yeah, but when he gets to that point, that's what I kept thinking about. Were the customers as annoying to you as they were to Randy?
Yeah, a lot of times they could be.
Did you have a woman going a little less?
Toward the end, that woman is like a little less, a little more, a little less. I'm just thinking, oh Jesus!
I would have just been like, "Bitch, come over here, fucking point out."
I'm gonna fucking give you a rock bottom right here.
I'm gonna fucking bang your head in the glass, bitch.
Bang your head! Singing the song while you do it.
They should have done that.
I was expecting, when the manager's like walking behind everyone's like, why is there such a long line? That shit right there reminded me so much of working in a grocery store, because it's like, it's obviously not your fault that there's a line because this woman, is being so tedious with her order, but yet that's all management sees is a line, so it has to be your fault. It's like, oh.
I couldn't help but think, because thank God in my grocery store we don't have a meat counter or anything. I just tell people no. But like, yeah, you have this in the back. I'm like, no, man, we're all out. I didn't even fucking look.
I'll admit there are times where we would do that. Like, we'd be in the middle of cleaning or something, and some guy would show up at like 7:30 at night and like, yeah, man, can you cut me like 6 or 7 ribeyes? It's like, no, we're all out right now.
Suck
sorry.
my balls, motherfucker.
or the saw's broken or something. Just get out of here.
Yeah, they definitely like nailed how fucking annoying working in a grocery store is, especially interacting with the customers.
That's where the improv comes from. A lot of them didn't know they were getting filmed. I think there was a few plants, from what I understand.
The old lady had to have been a plant. Like, there's no way anyone's like...
That had to have been, but she's like, a little less, a little more, a little less.
And then she's like, finally.
And she's like, about time. I'm like, you bitch.
Took fucking forever.
I'm like,
oh man,
give her the Ram Jam, Randy.
Someone would fucking say that though. I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't a plant, but I mean, I don't know.
I think for that interaction, she had to have been paid to be there.
Yeah,
do that shit.
The rest of them though, like especially like in the earlier scene when he first starts working in the meat department, and he's interacting with all the different customers. I think those all are probably just regular people. And like I said, that one guy with he's like balding or whatever, he just looks so confused and awkward the whole time.
That was a really weird moment, though. I'm not sure how I would ever react either if some guy was fucking throwing his meat at me. If Mickey Rourke threw his meat at me.
I wonder if these people were
kind of like potato salad or something.
Yeah, I think it was.
The thing is, we're sitting here joking around about the wrestling part, but maybe these people actually recognize him as Mickey Rourke in real life if these are like the real people.
They're like, holy shit, Mickey
he's
Rourke.
Fucking serving me meat, man. This is like, I don't know. He wants me to catch his meat. I guess I'll do it.
Oh gosh, man! I'll tell you what. That guy toward the end, in the last scene in the grocery store, where the guy's like, "I think I know you from somewhere."
Dude.
I was like, "Oh my!"
That guy could not take a fucking hint, dude.
Like, yo, man, did you play baseball? He's like, "No, man, I didn't play baseball." He's like, "Ram Jam," and he's like, "Huh?" And Randy's reaction was like, "What?" His eyes open up real hard, like, oh no, they're on to me,
Yeah, it's like he's fucking like wanted by the law or some shit. He killed somebody.
I like to think he's like an FBI agent. He's like, no, I'm not Randy the Ram.
He was in the fucking mob. He's in witness protection.
The only job they could give him was a fucking meat clerk. It's
hey, I know you from somewhere, motherfucker.
Hey, and you killed Fat Tony. I'm his son.
You one of Vinny's guys, motherfucker?
And come to think about it too, I don't think he actually works in the meat department. I think it's a deli.
Yeah, it's a deli.
The customer setup's the same. You got your service counter, and the annoying, like, nitpicky shit that they want. Yeah, I want a ribeye. I want it to be 2.5 inches and exactly 1.5 pounds, and I want 1/8 of an inch of the fat around the edge. Can you do that for me? Can you go fuck yourself? That's what I wanted to say to a lot of them.
And what they were like, you want to do it at the same time? I respect you. I've never heard anybody say that to me, motherfucker.
What if they were like, I'm trying to do that. That's what I need the meat for.
And then you have
You know
another.
what?
Go ahead, Cody.
I'm the undercover CEO, and I respect that. You know what? I'm gonna let you run this joint. It's like, all right,
Congrats.
And then you have one last customer comes up. He goes, "Yes, I'd like to have 30 pounds of all white meat chicken, and all the pussy you can give me." That's Marlon Brando, people. But we're getting sidetracked. There's multiple scenes with Randy working at the grocery store throughout the movie. At first, it is a job to get him by so he can wrestle. After he has his heart attack, which happens after a really fucked up match, which I'll get to in a minute, he has to retire, and he seems to be kind of content to actually work the job, and he, all that stuff. We'll get to that. But yeah, that was just really good scenes that were like, oh my god, the dude was not taking a hint. He goes, "Yo, Ram Jam, yeah, man," and then that old bitch, a little less, a little more. I always thought her voice just pissed me the fuck off. But after the Randy scene where he's like, "Yeah, I can't work on weekends," they go to an independent wrestling match, and he shows up, and a lot of the stuff that was being filmed in the locker room where the guys are going over the matches was all improv. It's like, this is kind of like in an independent scene is probably what you're going through, like seeing
Right.
backstage. And, that one guy's mohawk was absolutely fucking incredible. And he looked all emo like, high school Cody did. So I was like, oh man, just without the abs.
I was super into the scene, the whole like them going back and forth talking about spots,
Mm.
and then they do the match, right?
Yep.
And they say, well, when the promoter's reading off the match list for the night, he says it's for the strap, which for anyone who doesn't know, it's for the championship. And Randy the Ram wins, but then
There's no belt.
There's no belt or anything, and he's not seen with it. It's not like he's making any more money, and so that whole like comment about it being for the strap just confused me. I was like, I thought maybe whenever he announced that and it's like he wins, I'm like, oh, maybe this will be like a moment in the movie where like he starts like things start turning around, and he starts gaining more of that popularity he maybe had back in the day. But no, it just seemed like a random comment just because maybe they were like, man, you know what? It would sound cool if it was for the championship. Let's do that.
That is weird. I remember listening to something. It's for the strap. Tommy Rotten versus Randy the Ram, and I'm like, now you think about, because I didn't even think about the belt thing. Like there was no belt. But what I did respect about it, they were going over the spots and everything. I thought when he was walking around the ring where he headbutted the chair, that was like some silly, like really independent ECW type shit. You wouldn't see that in like wrestling, but that's some stuff they try to do to show the crowd how tough they are. But that's just them being like, oh, let me show you. I'm like, let's give yourself a concussion. But the blading, which is what I really respected, because you listen to so many people that don't understand wrestling, and they'll even say, well, that blood's fake. And I don't know if WWE uses blood capsules now just to be safe when they do it, but 99% of all the blood you see in wrestling is real.
Yeah, I mean, if you read Mick Foley's, I read Mick Foley's first autobiography he wrote, and he talks about blading a lot in that. And then also you see guys like Abdullah the Butcher, where like his forehead is just so scarred
it's
from all the blading.
Man.
Yeah, it's just rough.
Dusty Rhodes was like that. He had all that scar tissue.
Yeah.
Like there's a backstage little bit that Abdullah will do. He'll stick a quarter into his forehead slot and hold it there. I mean, it's fucking gross. But that's gigging yourself too fucking hard and doing. Abdullah and Dusty did a lot of that hardcore shit before they, it was like big mainstream. Like Hogan, His forehead isn't gigged up. The whole thing is you take the blade and you cut like right above your hairline, or right below your hairline, because it will heal quicker. And you cut yourself a little bit, and then your blood pours out. It mixes with your sweat and makes it look like you're fucking just pouring. But that's how people. The referee will hold the razor blade for the wrestler. They'll tape it to their wrist. They'll tape it to their finger, like Ric Flair. Some of them would even hide it in their mouth and then spit it out and do the spot. I mean, it's just like a little piece. It's not like there's a whole razor blade in your box here. They cut just a little slice of it off. I don't want people thinking they're sticking a whole blade in their mouth.
Right? And you see that in this movie, how he's like cutting it down, and it's just a tiny like little triangle, and he tiny piece of tape underneath on his wrist, and that's it.
Yeah, and like I said, like the blood in wrestling has always been. Whenever you saw people, like back in the day, they would be bleeding from a mouth. Sometimes they do like an angle, they'd get hit on the throat and be bleeding from the mouth. From a story I heard from Jim Cornette's podcast, they would take a syringe and a condom. They would take their own blood out of their arm and put it in the condom and tie it off, and they would stick that in their mouth. It's funny you said the thing about condom in their mouth, but when the spot would happen and somebody would crush your throat with a ring bell or a knee drop or whatever the thing is, they'd bite into that condom and then blood would come pouring out. So they weren't actually hurt, but it actually was their blood still. I mean, that's how like dedicated these people are to keeping the art form of wrestling alive, just so they'll keep selling tickets. That's how it was back in the day. But yeah, that whole little match was kind of cool, and then he come back after the whole gluing his forehead together. That's the kind of shit they do. They don't have like thread to thread you up. They just fucking super glue cuts. I remember hearing a story about Sabu, who's another hardcore wrestler, tearing his bicep open in a barbed wire match and having to glue his wound shut and then also duct taping it shut just so he could finish the match. I mean, it's how fucking sick some of this shit can get. Anyway, thank God they didn't go in that much detail. Well, the next match he does is kind of goes in that kind of detail. So, and then they pan to a scene where he goes to a strip club, and this is over the course of the movie. He has Marissa Tomei, Aunt May. But yeah, it was just like this whole little thing. They're trying to build a relationship. Oh, he's trying to build a relationship. He has the hots for.
He's in love with a stripper.
Oh, yeah.
She whined and she grinded.
Yeah. I mean, I think he really cares about her. I don't necessarily know if that's. I think he sees a lot of similarities. There's a lot of similarities. They're both aging, and their profession is not kind to older performers. Their professions. I'm not saying wrestling and strippers are the same, but kind of the same.
Yeah, it seems like they intentionally chose that because, for one, it fits with his whole like thing of he's in a trailer park, he doesn't have a lot of money. That's somewhere that he probably would go to just kick back and drink or whatever. And you're right, there are parallels between the two because when you're first introduced to her, she's in the room or whatever, and she's being mocked for being too old.
Yeah, that pisses him off. And he's like, you motherfucker.
Yeah, that was kind of cringeworthy, too. I felt bad for her. Like, there's a couple times she's trying to give people lap dances. Like, no, I'm just really not that interested. I'm like, oh, God. I would just give the woman $60 and let her do it because I'd feel bad to say no, to be honest with you. I mean, I hate saying no to people because, I know it's like a big, like, it can be something, like, really detrimental to their psyche if you say someone that, no. But anyway. Owen, do you have anything thoughts about Aunt May and her goodies hanging out?
Titties!
Woo! But yeah, that goes throughout the movie. There's multiple scenes. You see scenes where he's trying to get closer to her and she just doesn't want to cross that line. It's after this really fucked up match. They go to the dollar store to buy a bunch of weapons, which I thought was kind of silly. I thought it was cool at first. I'm like, well, maybe that's how they do it in Independence. I remember hearing X-Pac, another professional wrestler, saying that scene where they're hitting each other with frying pans at the dollar store is like, that's some stupid shit we wouldn't even fucking do. I mean, come on. So, but that was kind of funny. And they had the little owner of the store, I'm assuming, and he tries to hit him over the head with those little, I don't know, it looked like kind of like a weird, like cuffed, like frying pan. I don't know what the hell that
They're
is.
like the damn tin pans that you put like a turkey in or something.
Okay, yeah. What'd you think about that, Cody? All that little stuff they were doing.
This whole scene was extremely awkward. And it was I found it to be kind of cringy. It's just two grown men going around the store, and like, I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it look like, oh well, this could work in the match and all that, but it does just seem a little ridiculous.
Really phony.
And then yeah, and then when he gets up to the guy at the counter and he does it to him, it's just like, or he like first he hits, you know, the guy he's with, and then just the guy behind the counter seems so disinterested in what's happening. And he's like, "Come on, let me do it to you," or whatever. And it's just so awkward.
What if when he takes the little pans and he's like, "Here, come here," and he does it. He goes up to the counter and he's like, "Hey, come here, let me do it to you." He just fucking takes him and crushes the guy's head like a fucking grape. And he's like, "Go, take the money, come on."
That did cross my mind. Something like that. Like what if they did that? That was pretty good. Well, we get to the match with Necro Butcher, who is still wrestling, who has always done those type of matches. I remember reading about him in a lot of the pro wrestling magazines. This was CCW. That's C and then Z and then W. Combat Zone Wrestling. They're pretty much. And go ahead.
Sorry. I noticed whenever, you know, the match is going on and they're chanting, you know, CZW, CZW. It is intentionally made to sound like ECW, which, you know, for anyone who doesn't know, was very well known for like hardcore matches like this.
Yeah,
and
this is like ECW's child after they went out of business.
Yeah,
you know, a lot of promotions like this Combat Zone they wanted to do. They did a lot of extreme stuff. I think they did a little expose stuff with some of the women wrestlers.
Is it
like the softcore stuff? But
is he a real wrestler? The
Necro Butcher?
Yeah.
That's the guy he's wrestling. Yeah, he's a real life butcher. He really does all that shit.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh my god, dude! I was looking at his Wikipedia page today. He's got 6 kids, 4 kids with his first wife, and he had retired and then come back out of retirement because he needed the money. And he's suffering from Hodgkin's lymphoma right now, or something like that. It's fucking crazy. But the dude, like I said, he does all this fucked up shit in these matches. They do the staple gun. Like I said, if you're doing WWE hardcore matches, a lot of that stuff is gimmicks. You're not actually really, really hurting yourself. But they're having to do this in front of the 200 people in the crowd, and they just, I mean, it's just sick. You know, from staple guns.
On their titties, even.
Yeah, he did it to himself on his titties after he stapled that $5 bill to his forehead. They're like, "You sick fuck."
The chanting was really silly in this. Like, I don't know.
That's how they do it in crowd zone wrestling,
I guess.
Yeah, that's like authentic.
Okay.
Chanting though, you know, like.
I mean, yeah, I know there's chanting like that, but I don't know. It just seemed too like clean the way it was done.
Well, if you go back to that first match, that Tommy guy was slamming Randy's head against the turnbuckle, and that's when he was doing the blading spot. You hear the crowd go, "You suck," and you hear somebody else go, "Dick, you suck, Dick, you suck, Dick." I rewatched it this morning. And that makes it through the movie. And, like, that's fucking hilarious. That's not nice to say to people on the street or in a store. So don't tell people you suck dick and start chanting that at them.
Yeah.
Whether you don't like that old lady at the counter or not, don't do it. A little less. You suck dick. A little more. You suck dick. Anyway, but that whole match, I like how they have, like, little cuts of the match in between him getting treated backstage. Like, they're pulling the staples out. They're putting glue on that fucking cut he has on his fucking stomach. And all that stuff. You're seeing it. I mean, he gets thrown. They do the I keep laughing about the kid who hands him his prosthetic leg. And then he baseball
Use
bats.
His leg.
Use his leg. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, that part's like, oh man. That seems so, like, independent wrestling, too.
It is, man. But like I said, that company actually was, I mean, they're pretty successful for a smaller budget independent company, though. Like I said, they're...
See,
Go ahead.
I didn't recognize it. I didn't recognize it as a real company. I thought it was just something made up for the movie. The only one that I recognized was Ring of Honor at the end, but we'll get to that.
CCW actually had in the mid-2000s, they had a little war with ROH. And it got to the point it was cross-promotion. And then they had like a big 10-man tag match, like the best wrestlers on CCW and best wrestlers versus ROH. And Necro Butcher was a part of it. He wrestled Samoa Joe, which anybody who's a wrestling fan listening to this will know who Samoa Joe is. But but you're going through the whole match and, them talking about it. That whole spot where he choke slams Necro Butcher off of the ladder onto the table with the glass and the tacks. And they get backstage and he was like, because I was watching the movie today with the caption. He's like, "Are you okay with that table spot?" And Necro goes, "I'll live, sir. I'll live." And he's straight up redneck from West Virginia where the blue people are. So that's authentic Necro Butcher right there. But then we get to, Randy trying to get to the locker and just kind of clenching his sides, not feeling good, and then the vomit comes.
Yeah, I mean, like he drops quick, because you see there's plenty of movies and TV shows and stuff where you see characters have heart attacks, and I mean it's like fast. He vomits, he grabs his left arm, like stumbles like half a step forward, and then just like drops.
He drops like he saw like everyday low prices at Walmart. Like, oh man, 2 for $1.
That's such a good deal.
I gotta get some of them chicken wings 2 for $1. Oh god, Yeah, it was. I mean, that was a real acted out scene. Like that looked like how a heart attack. Like if you imagine how a heart attack happens, not like it happened in The Thing where he has a heart attack and then his stomach busts open because he's actually an alien. But in real life, that's what you expect this to look like.
Yeah.
Let's see. So can't work wrestling anymore after he has his surgery. And the thing is, his promoter leaves the money for him. He's like, "Oh, great job. We'll see you next month." And it's like, what the fuck? But, he just had like the bypass surgery and they don't even like give him a bill. Like, that's the thing you shouldn't think of. Is like, well, we'll mail you a bill in a month or so. I'm like, man, this motherfucker ain't gonna pay for this.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that, but you're right. They never like give him a bill, and you would think that maybe that would be like a main element of the story from that point because he's not making a lot of money. I'm sure he doesn't have insurance.
I doubt his shitty grocery store job gives him coverage.
It's good. The movie turns in from like the wrestler to this is why we need Obamacare. After this, he has to, I guess, retire. He hasn't completely retired at this point. He has to go to full time. The scene where he goes to the deli counter, how you kind of hear like wrestling audio in the background in his head, and he's about to walk through the curtain, and then he just walks through the big clear strips that keeps the cold in the cooler and walks through, and then it's almost like he was in that scene, like he was leaving wrestling behind, like this is a new start for him.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that was actually kind of cool how they did a little transition. And then, unfortunately, him not being in his daughter's life comes back to bite him in the ass when he tries to come around.
Oh, did we cover why he can't wrestle anymore? The doctor...
Well, he had a heart attack.
Yeah, well, we didn't say that. Like, the doctor specifically is like, yeah, you probably shouldn't wrestle anymore.
He said, that's not a good idea. That's my bad.
Yeah, Lance said that he was told that he couldn't wrestle because he had a bypass surgery.
Oh, okay. I don't even remember me saying that. Fuck yeah, dude. Look at Owen catching for me, baby. He, tries to reconnect with his daughter. She gets pissed off because it is like a thing. He's like, "Look, I just had a heart attack. I just thought I'd let you know."
She's like, "Fuck you, motherfucker."
Yeah, she gets pissed off, which I get from her perspective. It's like, you weren't here for me, and now you want me to fucking take care of you.
Yeah, it does seem kind of like a dick move because he's just coming back because he's like, nobody wants me anymore, man.
But how do you sit there and say that? Like if I had to ask Cody a question, I'd just be like, "Hey man, I need like $50." I would come across about this like, "Hey man, look, I've got this guy holding me up. I need $50 from you." I didn't really explain it that well. He was just like straight up like, "Look, I had a heart attack." And she doesn't, you obviously tell she still cares about him and she's just fucking hurt. And it's just like, you're just trying to pile more shit onto my life. Here I am, living in New York. It's about to snow. But, the whole thing, she tells him to fuck off. And then he doesn't fuck off visually, which was kind of disappointing for this movie. Because he has sex with a woman. So that's technically, fucking off.
Which
is foreshadowing.
that also like ruins everything with his daughter, but we'll get there.
Yeah. And then, just cutting through a lot of the movie, it's just more development between him and Cassidy. Cassidy suggests him to get a present for his daughter. She helps him pick it out. They end up sharing a beer together, end up kissing. Cassidy freaks out because she doesn't want to have emotions for this guy. Like, she wants to keep her job completely separate from the rest of her. Like, she's able to put on the makeup and put on the outfits to be a stripper, and then take all that shit off and leave it there. And that's what she wants, but unfortunately, that's her only like mode of income right now. But Randy, as a wrestler, like, performing is everything to him, and his real life is not. So it's almost like
it's like
opposite of her.
Yeah, it's like opposites.
Yeah, and because he's it's not even really about the money for him or anything like that. He's just addicted to, I guess, the adoration.
It's the adoration and the feeling you get. It's the love you're getting from him, because he didn't know. When you're on the road wrestling, you miss a lot. I watched the documentary today, and for preparation for this, it's called 350 Days, and they talk about wrestlers being on the road 350 days a year. You're missing Christmas, you're missing Halloween, you're missing Thanksgiving, you're missing these holidays because those are good paydays. People are still going out to see these shows. So you're sending money back to your kids, but you're not in your kids' life. So when your kids grow up, you don't really know them. And then your marriages have crumbled, or if you've been married or whatever it may be. Hopefully you didn't get married as a wrestler and you're just paying child support, not alimony, because all your money would be really fucking gone. But, Randy obviously was not in her life. Didn't sound like he was giving her any kind of money, or her mom any kind of money. And the thing is, when they finally connect, and he gives her the coat, that's a joke with the big S. And then I'm like, damn, he really bought that ugly ass coat, but then he ends up buying that. It's like, here's a real present.
He totally bought both just to like gauge her reaction on the first one he gets her.
He's like, I'm gonna take this other one back and get my $100 back. But he has that moment where he's like, I try to forget you existed and all this other stuff. And Ric Flair has literally said this before in an interview, that he tried not to even think about being a family man, because Ric Flair is the definition of Mickey Rourke. I mean, he's richer, he's got a lot of money, he's had a lot of health issues. It's one of those things where, Rick liked keeping his wrestling life separate from his personal life, but he was completely Ric Flair. He's not Richard Fliehr anymore. So Randy the Ram is not Robin or whatever his name is. He's Randy. Like, that's who he is, and that's what he wants. He just, I don't know. I don't know how to really describe it. He doesn't want his personal life to exist. If he could just have it like 7 days a week, he'd be in the ring in front of everybody loving him.
Which is the opposite of his love interest, who does not want the stage life and wants her personal life. Yes,
and she just can't cross those lines anymore. But you get through all that. Go ahead, Cody.
It really, and it seems like the only reason that he's even attempting any of this stuff now is because he thinks that his life in the ring is over. So he wants to reconnect with his daughter. He wants to be in a romantic relationship, but as we see later on, ultimately that stuff doesn't. In a way, it doesn't matter anymore, but it also kind of pushes him in a direction that he shouldn't actually be going in.
Yeah, wrestling is killing everything about Randy as a person, but it's the only thing that he lives for.
Yeah,
it's killing his everything from his personal life, from his relationship with his daughter, any relationship he could possibly form with Cassidy. And he's completely pushed everybody else away. So this was like his last chance at having that, the type of thing. But he can't leave wrestling behind, as you can tell. He has an awesome, day with his daughter. They go where the old amusement park used to be, over there on the pier and wherever it is in New Jersey.
That same pier's in The Sopranos.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's badass. I didn't realize that. I'm not a big Sopranos person, but anyway. Marlon Brando, they could live that movie. Don't wait about my life.
It's a show.
There's a lot of commotion outside of Cody's apartment. I'm like, Owen's apartment. I'm like, oh shit, maybe they're mad where I parked. But they have that. He has that awesome thing. He goes to see Cassidy to thank her. She's still freaked out from the kiss they shared, and she pushes him away. Then he acts like a complete asshole because he feels embarrassed for even extending more of himself to her. And then he runs off to another show, another wrestling show. They're like, "Oh man, I thought you were tired." He goes, "Yeah, man, just thought I'd come by, hang out." And he watched the show because he just can't get enough of it, and go backstage. And R-Truth, Ron Killings, who's been in the WWE now since 2009 and still there. He's a great comedy act, and he was, I believe, the first ever African American National World Wrestling Alliance NWA champion for TNA Wrestling. He won the title twice, and he was like one of the first stars they actually created was him. I was always surprised to see him as it's like in between his stints between TNA and then getting signed with WWE, he filmed these scenes. So
yeah,
I thought that was.
And before you get to the next part of the plot, we should also clarify that at the end of his day with his daughter, he asks her if she wants to get dinner with him on that weekend.
Yes.
So, she says Saturday, and he agrees, and then, of course, at now where that wrestling match was or the show was, we're at Friday night.
And the thing is, the timing of this movie, I'm not like criticizing it, but you don't know when days end and when days begin. Like, what day is it he asked her, is like, well, would you like to go out with me Friday night? Like, is this on a Wednesday or whatever? Yeah,
it's just sometime earlier in the week. But we know for sure that the wrestling show was Friday because, he ends up missing the dinner with his daughter the next day because he sleeps all day.
Yeah. Well, Cody covered a really good point. The after party of the wrestling show he goes to, he's talking to some young blonde, and she goes, "I know who you are. My brother had your poster on the wall." And he's like, "Well, your brother's got good taste." And she's like, "Do you want to party?" He goes, "What do you mean party?" And she goes, "Fireman party." I'm like, what the fuck is a fireman party? And I was, like I said, rewatching this movie today. I had the captions on, and they end up doing cocaine in the bathroom and they end up having sex. Well, as she's having sex with him, she's making siren noises like a fire truck. She's like, "Wow, wow, wow." And I'm like, oh my god, I never caught that before. What the fuck? Anybody got any thoughts to add to that scene? And we finally had the fuck off scene.
I think the only reason he does any of that is because he feels heartbroken because of Pam or Cassidy, whichever name you want to call her. But with her rejecting him, I think he feels so heartbroken. That's why he ends up doing all that. And of course, he's not even thinking about his daughter.
He has tunnel vision.
Yeah,
it's like one thing after another. It's like, oh, okay, I made good with my daughter. Now let's try to see if I can even get closer with Pam. That doesn't work out, and then he completely forgets everything else and just goes back to wrestling, the one thing that he feels comfort in.
It's like he's building a new structure for his life after wrestling, and he's laying the foundation, and then he's starting to build up. But then it all just crumbles down immediately when he gets rejected, and everything falls apart.
Yeah, I hate getting to the next part of the movie because it sucks so bad. But, even after being warned, you can't wrestle. After he oversleeps his dinner date with his daughter, and he tries to go reconcile with her, and she's absolutely done. Like, you pull the chicken out of the oven, it's completely black, you can't eat it. She is done. She says, "I don't love you. I don't even hate you. I don't even like you." Like, it's the complete, no feeling you have for somebody.
Yeah, and she never wants to see him again, ever, or hear him.
And, fuck, that scene sucks so bad. Yeah, it's just hard to watch, because you can sit there and see, especially the acting in it. They're doing the best. She's doing the best she can to really fucking bring the tears and be angry and stuff like that. And Mickey seems like he doesn't know how really to respond. He seems like he's upset, but I feel like a dad would be crying a little bit more than what he did, you know?
Well, it's not like he really knows her that well. I mean, I don't know.
It's his daughter. What the hell are you talking about?
I guess.
This is
I
real
mean,
life.
he hasn't been in her
Yeah,
life.
but his memories of her, like from when she's really, really little. I mean, it's been, 20 years probably since he's ever even seen her.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense because he sees Pam as Cassidy. He doesn't see her. He doesn't really know her. He sees his daughter as that little girl still. He doesn't see her
Right.
as that. I don't think he quite. Of course, he's trying to understand. But you gotta give him credit. He did try. He just fucked it up again.
Yeah.
And that's what ends up happening for the most part.
And then we get the grocery store.
Ooh, baby. Now, let me tell you something. As I turn my page in my notes, this scene, other than him trying to cut his thumb off, is exactly how every grocery store employee wants to go.
Yeah.
But you want to be rich though. You want to be like, I just hit the lottery. Suck my dick, motherfuckers, and start knocking shit over and walk out.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just like, listen here, you little fucking prick, and then he walks out. But I'm like, I can see Cody doing that. Is what I was thinking. Myself, I can do that, but we don't have a meat counter. I'm like, I can see Cody freaking out and be like, hey, bitch, you want your cheese?
I just don't understand why he ends up cutting his thumb. It's like you could have just stormed out and threw stuff without, trying to cut your thumb off.
I think only because he can use that as an excuse. So they try to come after him, like, for back pay or loss. So he'd be look like I hurt on the fucking job or some shit like that. And this little guy's yelling at me because, he walked in on his manager watching porn. I'm like, look, dude. If my work computer could load porn, I'm not going to say I would watch it because I'm not stupid, but I'm not going to say I haven't had it on my phone in the office. Who knows? But
this is the scene though where we were talking earlier about like the little short dude. He's like, "Hey, I think I know you from somewhere."
I want to hear Cody's commentary in this guy's voice real quick. So everybody just hush up. Cody, go ahead and do the questions he was doing in that voice though.
Hey, don't I know you from somewheres? No, you don't know me. Don't you play softball or something? No, I think I know you from the local barber shop. I don't remember what else he asked him.
He's like, oh, you one of Joey's guys? You one of Joey's guys?
Oh, you're Randy the Ram. Oh my goodness. Ram-a slammer jammer. And Randy's just like, I'm out of here, and cuts his freaking thumb off.
He's like, can you hear this guy? He's comparing me to Randy the Ram, and I can't concentrate on cutting this cheese.
Oh, I remember, I think the breaking point was when he's like, man, you look just like him, but old.
Yeah, that's the thing. Randy, I made that note. Randy has obviously have a hard time with time, and he has a hard time with the passing of it. Like, where did it all go? And he's just like, what the fuck, But, I just dropped my microphone. But that scene, other than the blood squirting everywhere, I swear to God, that scene, him freaking out and walking out of the grocery store, is every person's dream exit when they quit their job at a grocery store.
Or just retail in general.
Well, we work in a grocery store. I don't think it's probably as bad as people working at like gas stations, maybe.
Nah, it's fucking bad at gas stations. You get like crackheads and shit coming in there. Like,
well, you get crackheads at our store too.
Yeah, but I mean, like your base customer line at a grocery or not a grocery store, like a gas station is like just crackheads.
So he gets through it, and he's pissed off his daughter. So as far as he's probably thinking, that's completely dead. And it felt like it was completely dead. So he's got nothing left. Pam wants nothing to do with him. So there's one thing to do. Call the promoter, unretire, and try to get the match back on with the Ayatollah. And that's exactly what he does. And the Ayatollah turns out to be Ernest the Cat Miller, who wrestled in WCW. I sounded real redneck there. WCW. Shut up. WCW in the late 90s and early 2000s, and wrestled in the WWE. He was a really charismatic dude. He's a legit badass black belt in karate. And I thought it was cool just seeing him, like, when I first saw him. I'm like, that's Ernest the Cat. But before we get to that, I jumped the scene where Cassie shows up and she's like, "Look, I'm real sorry for being a bitch, for pushing you away," type of deal, and telling him, you're more than a customer.
Yeah.
But I can't
And
cross
then
that line.
Yeah, and I think in that moment she could have saved him, but because he seemed like she had his full attention, and then she says, "I can't cross that line," and he's just like, "All right, come to the show," and he takes off.
And he gets to the show, he's getting ready, and at the time he's getting ready, she's going on stage, and she just, I don't know if she just doesn't feel it or she's really worried about him. I feel it's probably like both. Like, she's absolutely done stripping. Like, she doesn't want to do it anymore, and she wants to go. She wants to go see him, and that's like the simultaneously happening is what I felt in that moment for her. It's like, you know what? She just doesn't feel like doing this job anymore. She's walking out on her only source of income, and she's going to go see him and see if she can save him in a way.
And I feel like you're right. I think at that point she is done, and it's sort of like symbolic as she's walking out, and you hear someone, like, I guess like the manager or whatever, like, Cassidy, and then as she's getting ready to walk out the door, he yells Pam.
Yeah,
and then she acknowledges it, but that moment is like she's left that behind, and something else she's found something that's more important.
Yeah. That was a really good scene. And then, the Ayatollah's like, "All right, man, I'll see you out there." And Randy's doing that. And then, fuck. Okay, I will say this. The last 6 minutes of this movie is perfect to me. The emotions, like, you can sit there, if you just isolate from the rest of the movie, you feel sorry for Randy. This is what he wants to do, even though he's done this to himself. Like, the decisions he's made, the drugs he's done, the alcohol he's drunk, all the stuff that he's done, he's put himself in this position. But you still feel sorry for him. You kind of can forget all that in his last 7 minutes. They do the entrance for the Ayatollah, and as he's about to get ready for his entrance, Pam shows up. No longer Cassidy. Pam shows up, and she's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" He goes, "Hey, I'm here with my people." And she goes, "Yeah, but your heart." He goes, "Look, my heart's still ticking." And she's like, "Yeah, but," he's like, "the only place I ever get hurt is out there in the real world. Here, they love me. This is where I belong." And then she says, like in a last-ditch effort, she's like, "I'm here. I'm really here right now." And I think it's almost like he feels like he's walked too far out on that plank. He can't come back.
Yeah.
He's about to go out there, and then you hear the music play. And he goes and said all of his matches were Mental Health by Quiet Riot. And they played a Guns N' Roses song. Mickey Rourke is, I said his name like, Mickey Rourke, man, like I'm from Boston. He is a good friend of Axl Rose. And Axl Rose donated this song to the movie because they didn't have it in the budget to cover like everything else that they were doing. He donated for him. And then when Mickey Rourke was also trying his hand at being a boxer, which he did in the 90s, he came out to this song. So it was kind of cool reading that like backstage. He acknowledged it when he won an award at a film festival. But Pam is up there in, I guess you call it like just before you get the entrance, almost like the loft. Like she's watching from high above where Raven used to. Like, what about Raven? Cody will get the joke. But
yeah.
And he goes down there and tags all the fans, and then gets in the ring and makes this big heartfelt speech. Even hugs the Ayatollah. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then they do the little heat spot, and Ayatollah starts sneaking up on him and all that, and going through the match. And it's kind of cool. Like throughout these matches, you hear them communicating with each other, but the crowd couldn't hear it. So it's kind of cool how they kind of do this thing. And they had a few spots in it where he tries to do the Ayatollah's, camel clutch. He goes, "This is my move. What are you doing?" I kind of cracked up at that. And then, going through, like he does a big dive over the top rope, and the Ayatollah pulls the referee in the way. But it almost looks like he just dove on the referee, and the Ayatollah was nowhere near. I'm like, okay, they kind of fucked it up. But as this is happening, Pam leaves, I have a hard time understanding why she'd leave. Because I don't even think she gave up on him. But it's like, well, this is what he wants to do, so she just left. You know, what if she's just kind of like waiting for him down at the stairs? You know, but
Yeah.
She found a seat.
she found a seat. She goes, my legs are tired. I've been on that pole all day. But going through the whole thing, he throws the Ayatollah back into the ring. He hits a clothesline, then he hits a back chop, and then Randy goes to his knees because his heart's giving him trouble.
Well, I think he's having another heart attack.
Yeah,
Because he's grabbing his arm again, and
it's starting to. It hasn't completely, like, he's having the warning signs. It's almost like it's a countdown.
Yeah.
You know, that's the way I kind of, like, when I was watching it today, it came across me. It's almost like a countdown. And then he, you know, I told him, like, are you okay, Ram? And he's like, yeah. And then he does a move to him, throws him in the turnbuckle, and then he tries to charge him. And then he collapses again because there it goes. And the only reason I don't say it's a full-fledged heart attack is because when he had that heart attack, I mean, he fucking collapsed in the locker room. This is like,
Right.
You know, they put like a pacemaker in his heart is what this was. And it's like,
I mean, this could also be, you know, the adrenaline and everything from the match, like keeping him up instead of, you know, post-match exhausted, then he has a heart attack and collapses. This is adrenaline's already pumping. He's starting to have a heart attack, but he's able to kind of fight through it because he just desperately wants that admiration from the crowd.
yeah.
And he's feeding off of it.
Owen, you got anything to say on this? You've been kind of quiet the last couple of minutes.
I don't know.
This very riveting feedback from Owen. But going back to, like, finishing it up, I was about to call him Ernest the Cat. The Ayatollah was like, okay, Ram, let's go home. And he flips himself over Randy. Like, Randy's not even doing anything at that point. He's like, come on, pin me. We gave him enough. Pin
me, please.
And, you know, Randy just gets up and he's like, you know, he wants to do something else. Like, this is his moment. This is what he looks at. Like, this is it for me. You know, the ref's like, are you okay? And he pushes the ref off, like, almost like, don't break kayfabe, bro. And then, you know, the Ayatollah's like, okay, Ram, let's go. Take it home. And he does the kick. The final scene.
He makes his way to the rope.
Yeah, he makes his way to the rope. And like I said earlier, when Pam was trying to get him to, like, not go, it almost felt like he walked too far off onto the ledge. He can't not make this jump. And this is, like, at the edge of the plank here. And he looks up to see if she's watching, almost like, is there anything waiting for me? Like, because at this point, you know, I feel like if he just stopped, he could have survived.
Yeah.
But he looks back, she's no longer there, and it symbolizes that he has nothing left, nothing's waiting for him. And this is all he's been waiting for. And this is this is where he belongs. And then really, if you listen to it, I feel like it's really emotional, just awesome little guitar riff playing as he's climbing the ropes real slowly. And it's a musical piece done by Slash from Guns N' Roses. And he gets up to the top rope. He's saluting the crowd, and you can see him crying. And, you know, this is his moment. Like, he is completely detached from his personal life. Robin, or whatever his real name is, no longer exists. He is fully Randy the Ram, and it's going to end here. And it's just so sad. It's like he's got this thing. He feels like it's almost like he's at peace, but he's completely just torn up inside at the same time. It's really conflicting. Like, he's at peace, like, the crowd's chanting his name. They're loving all this. He has nothing left, though, and it's just a whirlwind of all these emotions that I was feeling watching it. He takes the jump, and we go to black. And then that's the end.
Yeah.
So, sorry. I get a little emotional thinking about the ending. I really love it.
Yeah, I think the ending's great. And, I mean, I like that it kind of leaves it up to you as the viewer to kind of determine what happens. Personally, I think the heart attack probably ended up killing him. I mean, the match itself is symbolic of, like, you know, they talked about it earlier, you know, the Ram versus Ayatollah 2, you know, the rematch of, like, the biggest match in his career. And he's already, like, on the brink. He's pushing it because, you know, he's not even supposed to be wrestling anymore. he's having signs of a heart attack or about to have a heart attack or whatever while he's in the ring. And I think that match is probably the last match ever for him. And I think he probably is dead.
Yeah. Owen, you got anything, bud?
Yeah, he's definitely dead.
That's Owen chiming in with incredible opinions. Riveting. Like, we live for Owen's opinions.
It's insightful, even.
It's very insightful. But yeah, it's the only way you'd want to go out at that point. Like, we sit there, on my end especially, when I am trying to relax or I'm off in like my own little world where I'm thinking, if I'm listening to music, and you always kind of listen to music and you're kind of putting the music to your life and trying to pick out high moments to match the song or whatever. But you always try to like imagine all like the high points where you're feeling the emotions, because most of life is just you're working, you're paying bills, you're sleeping, you're getting up, you're doing it over again. But it's the emotions that you feel with your family, with your loved ones, the things that you look forward to, or it's your job, or hopefully it's both, or what are those things. And Randy has none of that. He has the job. He is completely pissed away his personal life. He has pretty much no money. He's living in a trailer park. And he knows that, a high impact move is probably going to end his life. And, he just gets up there, you hear the crowd, and it's like the fever pitch. The crowd's ready for this finishing move. They're ready for him to do it. And, he feels all that love, but yet he has no love.
Yep.
And it's just like, God, it's such a fucking, just incredible, just emotion. I rewatched that last, 45 seconds, 3 times. Just to rewatch it, just to feel like, I love how that is in that movie. And it's just great. And it doesn't matter if he wins a match, and he has to go to the hospital. We're leaving Randy's life right as he's jumping out of ours. That doesn't matter. This is about him and his life, and it's just gone. I remember my guy, Ultimate Warrior, coming back for the Hall of Fame in 2014, held by the WWE. Had the Hall of Fame ceremony Saturday night. Sunday, he made an appearance at WrestleMania 30. The next night, he did a little promo on Monday Night Raw. He flew home from Arizona. From New Orleans to Arizona, going back home. As they were leaving the airport to go back to the house, he collapses with a heart attack, and he was dead before he went to the hospital. As a high point as you can get with the end of your career, but in a good way, was the Ultimate Warrior there. From a professional side, I know he made some personal things that weren't so great in his life, but that's something that kind of reminded me of it. And you have so many wrestlers that have this kind of thing. You get broken down. You didn't save enough money. Sometimes you get another chance, and WWE will give you a chance to get a backstage job or something like that. But it's just one of those things that a lot of those guys, they have that kind of experiences. Before I get into that little tribute thing, I'd like to ask you guys, any final thoughts? Your recommendation, your rating, whatever you want to give it today, because I'm about to give it all the ratings in the world because I love this movie so much. Spoiler alert for me. But Cody, go ahead, sir. What was your final thoughts, and would you recommend this movie? Did you really enjoy this movie? Did you fucking hate it? Is your dog licking your heel? I need to fucking know right now.
I enjoyed it. I think it's a good movie. I would definitely recommend it. Even if you're not into wrestling, which being into wrestling makes it even more interesting, especially when you understand the behind the scenes elements of it. But it just works as a good drama as well. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it.
Okay, Mr. Owen. I know, hold on, man. Last 3 questions, you've given us really hefty answers.
Yeah.
I need
Socrates over there.
Fucking Socrates.
It's philosophical.
I need something that Moses would have said to God when he was getting the 10 Commandments. What did you think about this movie?
I leave my answers open, just like the ending, dude. So, but no, I recommend it. Like Cody said, I think you don't really have to know too much about wrestling. It's just a really nice character study of a washed up, wrestler who was at the top of the game back in his heyday, and I just think it's a really compelling drama
I recommend it. Yeah.
I recommend this movie 100% to anybody that watches it. If you're a wrestling fan, you'll watch it more than once. If you're not a wrestling fan, you still might watch it more than once. I'd give it a 5 out of 5 star in a match rating. I'd give it 10 out of 10 on IMDb. I'd give it 100% of Rotten Tomatoes, which it actually has a 98% of Rotten Tomatoes. Absolutely everything. I love this movie. It dramatizes the dark side of professional wrestling so well because there's so much of it being told. With professional wrestlers in their life, not everybody ends up that bad. But it tells wrestling. It doesn't make fun of wrestling. It tells it how it, a more realistic approach, and it gives wrestling the respect it deserves. And Mickey Rourke did just an absolutely beautiful job with this movie, so I 100% recommend it. Well, before I get into my little tribute, this is the end of our episode. We're going on almost 2 hours. This has been my absolute favorite episode to record so far. I've had the most fun talking about stuff because this is something that's really close to me and I have a lot of knowledge about, I feel like. Our next movie will be, Owen, you need to chime in because I can't remember the title.
It's Hard Boiled, the John Woo movie.
Which we will be reviewing in 2 weeks. Today is September 19th, I believe. 18th? 18th.
19th.
Is it 19th? Okay, I couldn't remember. My bad. So September 19th, so in 2 weeks, this will be dropping September 26th, hopefully, theoretically.
Coming straight out the cut for you.
Coming out cut. Hopefully we will be on a actual every 2 week schedule now. Hopefully vacations are done. We're getting into winter. Yeah. Everybody's going to be working. So we can start getting these things out regularly. This is only be episode 4. We've been doing this almost 2 months now. I'd like to thank Cody and Owen for embellishing me and watching this movie. This was absolutely, like I said, this is my favorite episode I've done. I mean, the Grudge episode is probably the most concise and more polished episode because Cody was a better host than me. But this episode is like really fucking near and dear to my heart. And I know it's a lot of me talking. I'm cool with that. I don't care. I love wrestling. Before I let everybody go, if you made it this far, thank you very much for listening to the podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at FilmoscopyPod. We all have our own Twitter handles. Mine is at EnigmaticVein, which is attached to or in the bio to at FilmoscopyPod. Cody, what's your at handle?
It's at SilentHill002.
And Owen, what is yours, even though you're not on Twitter much?
It's at Top Hat Wishbone.
Very insightful. So if you want to reach us, if you're listening to this, you want to give us any kind of feedback, we would welcome it 100%. I'm getting the same feedback from the same 4 people that I trust wholeheartedly. And that's fine, but I would like to get some people that I don't know. So anybody that has anything, let us know, please. The reason I picked this movie, The Wrestler, was really because of Kamala, the Ugandan giant, his passing a while ago. It's been probably a little over a month. His death really has affected me because hearing his story, he was a poor African American growing up in southern Mississippi, and he was given this gimmick of being this African giant that was a cannibal, and all the baby faces, which were the good guys, were afraid of. And he was given this gimmick and worked the territories. He made it to the WWF, and then, his star began to fade, but he wasn't paid like he should have been paid. Hearing his story, hearing his dad died when he was 4 years old, getting killed in a card game gambling. And it's just one of these things, is like hearing like the stuff as he was a wrestler. His oldest son, he didn't have much of his only son really didn't have much of a relationship with. His son ended up going to prison twice, and the second time his son got killed in prison. He didn't have much of a relationship with him. He talked about how him and his wife got divorced after 30-something years. And I've watched so many documentaries about these guys and seeing their lives being affected by wrestling in a negative way, but them still loving wrestling. And there's so many guys that are no longer here that didn't get that Randy the Ram salute off the top rope final moment. Not everybody wants to die in the ring, But not everybody got to have that high point moment where you got to feel the love from the crowd one more time before it was over with. Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig, he passed away in 2002. Or 2003, excuse me. Road Warrior Hawk passed away in 2003. Big Boss Man passed away in 2004. Hercules Hernandez passed away in 2004. Eddie Guerrero passed away in 2005. He was 37 years old and still wrestling. Chris Benoit did all that stuff, and he was, I believe, almost 40 in 2007. You have all these guys. Chris Kanyon, who better than Kanyon, who was somebody that dealt with mental illness and struggling with homosexuality in professional wrestling and not knowing if he could be open and just torturing his entire life. He committed suicide in 2010. Macho Man Randy Savage, whose song that they played as a tribute to him will be played at the end of this episode, passed away in 2011. And, you know, the Ultimate Warrior in 2014, Bobby the Brain Heenan, who was a manager, died, I believe, I can't remember now, 2016. This year, Kamala passed away. Legendary ring announcer Howard Finkel passed away. All these guys have passed away, and, you know, they're leaving behind family members who didn't have them around as they were trying to make a living. And they did it all to make money, but they did it also to entertain us. And I've already said how much wrestling meant to me. I had a special connection with it, and I was able to, you know, really get to know my dad, really have conversations. I wouldn't have known what else to talk about with my great-grandmother at the time. And, you know, be able to understand what was happening during these times in real life. And, you know, it also means a lot to me because if it wasn't for pro wrestling, I wouldn't have this podcast. I met Cody through his fiance at the time, now his wife. I was working with her at the same grocery store. I had the autobiography of Sting, Steve Borden, his book in my hand. I was reading it in the office, and she goes, "Well, my fiance likes wrestling." I'm like, "Oh, dope, man. Give me his number. Maybe we can hang out." And it was kind of a weird, like, a blind friend date set up. Like, me and Cody were texting, like, "Hey, man, you like wrestling? You want to hang out?" It was kind of weird, but, you know, me and Cody have been friends for over 10 years now. And, you know, my best friend Alex, who will be listening to this podcast, and his brother Jacob, I wouldn't have met them without their fandom in wrestling. And if it wasn't for wrestling, I wouldn't have been Alex's best man at his wedding. I wouldn't have been Cody's groomsman. I wouldn't have been Jacob's groomsman at his wedding. And anybody that has known me for a long time, if they hear the words Ultimate or Ultimate Warrior, they instantly think of me. They know that's my guy. Or Jeff Hardy. For the younger people that I know that knew I watched wrestling then, they know that's my guy too. So wrestling means a lot to me. The sacrifices these people make to make a living, you know, was it worth it for them? I watched that documentary today, 350 Days. They said, you know, to be honest with you, I'd do it all over again if I could. Because it's such a great feeling to go out there in front of the crowds and do this. And these, like I said, these guys, I grew up watching wrestling on television and watching these tapes. And, you know, I'd come home and I'd watch these tapes. And these wrestlers, I mean, I would fantasy book my own matches in my head. You know, I'd play the wrestling games to try to do that. Hell, me and Cody had a wrestling league that we did on SmackDown versus Raw. We went through a couple editions of that. Remember that, Cody?
Yeah.
And, you know, we did all that. And, you know, I wouldn't have these friendships that have lasted me over 10, 11 years now. And I wouldn't have the connections I do with people if it wasn't for my love of pro wrestling and their love of pro wrestling and what it's meant to them. So I wanted just to pay just a little bit of tribute today to a lot of the wrestlers that have passed away. You can Google premature deaths on Google and just see how many guys have passed away. The guys in their 30s, guys in their 40s. I mean, I'm 32 years old. Eddie Guerrero died at 37. He's 5 years older than me when he died, and that was 15 years ago. And just sitting there thinking about that, like how close, like, are we as people to death anyway in our own life? But just seeing that, the people that they left behind, their stories, I like to pay respect to those people That's why I watch a lot of documentaries, because I want to know more about them, and I feel like somebody should at least watch these documentaries to at least honor these people one time. But I'm just really thankful for what wrestling is giving to me as a fan, the enjoyment, the emotions, the connections that I have, and that's why I picked The Wrestler, because I knew this movie paid respect to wrestling, and this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to kind of pay tribute to wrestling. So, with that being said, we'll be back in 2 weeks from whenever this episode drops with another episode. And I want to thank Cody and Owen for giving me this time. I want to thank everybody for listening, and have a good rest of your day. Stay safe, wash your hands, wear a damn mask, and that's it.
All right, bye.
See ya.
Color and light, big loud sounds, stars burning bright with a love lost and found. I'm here, still here, headed home. Crowds wanting more, still burns in my ears. Buying a blink, so many years. I'm here, no tears, headed home. So I will spend these last moments with you. Show me your heart and carry me through. Hard to let go of all we began. Want to go back and live it again. I'm here, no tears.